Hi y'all, welcome to this channel where we discuss everything related to the COVID-19 pandemic as caused by the SARS-CoV-2 virus. Today we're going to look at US deaths which have now surpassed 300,000. So today is December 14th, 2020. Globally, we have seen 72,650,000 coronavirus cases. In terms of global deaths, we are now at 1,618,000. In the US, we see 16,407,000 new cases, total cases. And today we have surpassed the benchmark of 300,000 deaths in the United States due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, as of today, we saw a new 190,920 cases in the United States, which gives a total of over 16 million total cases. One way to visualize this is to look at the cases over time, and these are new confirmed COVID-19 cases per day. And the United States is at an all-time high still, and still climbing at 213,000 average new cases per day, and this is over the last week. By comparison, Europe has now fallen to about 125,000 new cases per day average. Interestingly, Turkey itself has seen 144,000 new cases per day over the past 7 days. And we see Brazil as well at 42,000 cases per day, new cases per day over the last 7 days. So we're seeing the trend over time, and we can limit this to, let's just look at the last 8 weeks or 2 months or so. And we can also look at new deaths per day on average. And here you do see in the United States, new deaths per day are 2,400, and that's an average over the last 7 days. By comparison, the European Union, 3,270 new deaths per day, a little lower than the beginning of December. That's nonetheless still a high number, and we would like to see, obviously, all these numbers come down. So lastly, we can look at total deaths. So these are cumulative deaths due to COVID-19 over the last 2 months. And here you see United States, and today surpassing 300,000. This data still hasn't accounted for that at 299,000. And in the European Union, 310,000 deaths as of yesterday, December 13th, for this data. So the 300,000 number for the United States is concerning. So one way to look at the trend in deaths is to plot them on this graph since October, the beginning of October, and every dot shows an increase of 10,000 new deaths. So starting from October 4th, we're just past 210,000 deaths. So the next dot is at 220,000 deaths. So adding 10,000 deaths, 230,000 deaths, 240,000, etc. to today, which we are over 300,000 deaths. And what's most concerning about this trend is the space between the dots. So the time it takes to gain another 10,000 deaths is decreasing. So we are accelerating the rate at which the next 10,000 people are dying from the COVID-19 pandemic. And so you can see the shape of this curve is sort of bending upward, and that's not the trend that we would like to see. Ideally, we'd like to see this plateau and flatten and having no more new deaths. Another way to look at that is in this bottom graph, where we're looking at how many days it takes to get to the next 10,000 deaths. So in the beginning of October, it took 13 days. In the middle of October is 14 days. So every 2 weeks or so, you're seeing 10,000 deaths. As we move into November, in mid-November, the numbers came down a bit to 12 and 11 days. So that's accelerating slightly. And then as we get into late November and into early December, we're seeing 10,000 deaths every 7 days. So from the beginning of October, it was every 2 weeks to see the next 10,000. And now in later November, it's every 1 week for the next 10,000 deaths. However, what's most concerning is in the most recent days, not even weeks, we're seeing the next 10,000 deaths in 4 to 5 days. And this has been somewhat consistent over the last 2 weeks. So the beginning of December to today, which is now the middle of December, we're seeing an average of 10,000 deaths every 4 to 5 days. So this plot with these numbers coming down is not a good sign, is the opposite of what we want to see. Ideally, what we'd like to see is for the number of days for the next 10,000 deaths. Obviously, we would like to see no more deaths, but at least for the time being to see longer and longer periods of time before we see the next 10,000 deaths. So I still remain optimistic that we can bend this curve back up so that we're seeing less and less deaths over time, less new deaths over time. And that really depends on how we act and how we interact with each other during this time. There is a vaccine on the horizon that gives hope. However, in the interim time, we still must stay vigilant to prevent these new cases from occurring, as well as new deaths from happening. So hopefully this gives some perspective as to this milestone we reached today of 300,000 deaths in the United States due to COVID-19. While it is a somewhat artificial milestone, it does give us a reminder that the effects and the impact of COVID-19 continues. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Stay safe. And remember, wash your hands, social distance, and wear a mask. We're all in this together.